If statements. So everything we've done up to this point has been nice enough. We've had buttons which will take us from one form to another form, buttons which will change the background color of a form, and buttons which will change something in the text box. But if you want to do something a bit more complex, like for example, have a login screen, so someone has to type in a username and then a password, and then press submit, and it gets checked to see whether or not they are the correct details before allowing them to go on to the next form, then that's where if statements are really kind of powerful. Now, I used the word complex a moment ago. Now, it's not kind of complicated in terms of it's difficult to do. It just means that we can do more complicated things. So, anyway, in terms of if statements, there is a tutorial for this, tutorial 10, which we will refer to as I kind of go along. We'll kind of have a look at a little bit later. But first of all, I've kind of set up an example where I want someone to type in their height into this text box, and then when we press submit, it's going to check their height and say, if your height is 180 or over, then you are tall, else you are short. So basically that's how an if statement works in that respect. And we kind of look at it now. So as you can see, I've gone dark mode, but I haven't actually really gone dark mode. I've just changed the background color and my text color to a lighter color here, just to show you that I've done that. And obviously I've changed the size of it so it kind of stands out a little bit as well. And the only other thing I really want to point out at this point, I've actually done the tab index thing as well. So my tab index for the text box is 0, for the button is 1. So basically that will be the first kind of place the user gets kind of like directed to. Right. So anyway, before we actually start doing things in terms of like actually putting an if statement together, there's just one other thing I want to kind of show you or talk to you about. Something called tooltips. Because I don't know if you've ever, or you probably have hovered over like an icon on your desktop, and then it will give you a little description as to what it is, or even a file or folder telling you details about it. And I always think it's kind of nice to show people what it is they need to type into here, like a little kind of prompt to say, type in a number for your height. And something to actually kind of pop up when I hover over the submit button to say, press this to submit your height, that type of thing. Now, tooltips are easy enough. So over on the toolbox, you can either type it in to do a search, or you can scroll and find it. And it is there. And I'm just literally going to double click it, and it'll appear underneath here. So if I click on the tooltip, the properties over on the right hand side, I can change the name of it if I want, because you might have several different tooltips. You might have a tooltip for your text box. You might have a tooltip for your submit button and so on, and various different things. And you'll see that that looks a familiar color. So when I hover over things on my desktop, that kind of appears. And there's kind of bits and pieces you can mess around with here. I'm not actually going to touch any of them at this stage, but all I am going to do is click on my text box, scroll right to the bottom of properties, and this tooltip on tooltip 1, which is the tooltip here, is basically saying, well, what is it you want to type in there? So I'm actually going to say, so this is my text box tooltip, type in a number for your height and enter. And I'm also going to do the same for my submit button. So if I scroll down, as you can see, it's already kind of brought me straight down here. And I'm just going to say, press here to submit your height. And like I haven't done any coding at this stage, but if I just press play and it'll load up for us eventually. And when I hover over my text box, why is it working? Oh, there it is. Type in a number. Oh, it did pop up a second. Go to there. And there we go. Press here to submit your height. And anyway, I'll type in a number for your height. There's a delay on that for some reason. I don't know why that's doing that, but it's kind of a nice way to kind of like help people use your file, especially for like accessibility and so on, to help people understand what it is they need to do. But anyway, back to what this is all about, the if statement. And I do realize this is a 4-minute video already, but the if statement is going to be based on when someone types something in here and they press the submit button, that's what it's going to check what the height is in this text box here. So if I double click on my submit button to generate the event handler for it, it's a button one click and it handles the click on the end there. We just want to make sure that's set up as it is. I think that's the default anyway. So if statements work like this. So capital I if, and the text box, I should have pointed out as well. It's called text box 1 on my button. I'm not very good at naming stuff. But anyway, text box 1. So if text box 1 dot text is greater than or equal to, and I did say 180 tonight for this, so in the speech marks 180. So if it is greater than that, then it's going to activate this line of code here. And as you notice, when I press enter to come down onto the next line, it actually automatically defaulted to say end if. Now, at the moment, I can see the syntax is fine on this, but if, for example, I didn't do a capital T or capital I, then it would highlight it or underline it in red, like it would in Microsoft Word to say, you spelled this wrong, you might want to look at this again, type of thing. But it's looking good at this point. And what we're going to do, we're going to have a message box, so MSG, anyway, therefore it's there, which then will say, you are tall. Right, now I'm not actually going to do any more than that at this point. I just want to check if that part of it works. So I want it to be able to tell me that I am tall if I type in either 180 or higher. So if I type in 181 and I press submit, you are tall. And if I type in something less than that, let's see what happens. Because again, I haven't really tested this. Nothing happens. In fact, it's not broken or anything. Because when you think about it, we haven't actually told it what to do if it's less than 180. So this is where the else part comes in, because whenever people refer to if statements, they always say if then else or if else ends, that type of thing. So after this line, we want to say else, another message box, which will say you are short. I hope no one's getting upset by the fact that I'm saying if you are under 180 centimeters tall, you are short. I'm just using it as an example. So again, I haven't got any reds. It looks as if it's happy with that. So if I run this, and I'll just check that first bit works again. So 187, submit, you are tall. If I put something less than that, 178 or less than 180, you are short. Brilliant. And interestingly, if I leave it blank altogether and I press submit, it will tell me I'm short. But technically, I haven't actually entered anything into it, so we can't make that judgment about me or kind of say, so I need to look at that in a moment. But the one thing I'm not particularly happy about is, yeah, it's great. I get this pop now. Ooh, message box. But that looks a bit scruffy. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. And normally there's like an icon of some sort on it. So let's just tidy that up first a second. So in our visual or VB glossary, on page 5, there is these kind of this section which shows you how to set up different types of message boxes. So it's probably worth coming and have a look at that. And a little bit further down, there is conditional statements, which is the if statements basically, which we're talking about. And we were actually doing this part here at the top, but you can see there's other again, I'm going to use the word complicated, but they're not. It's just they're more suited to other types of scenarios. So back on here then, with the you are tall bit, I'm going to press comma after the speech marks. And I think it was message box style. And look, it's already given me these to choose from, which is brilliant. I'm going to put a critical on it. I'm not even sure what that's going to look like. And another comma, and I'm going to have a title, which is the attention. Something like that. Okay. And if I run it this time, and again, I type in 180 or higher, so 199 and press submit. The message box is a bit more customized. So that's the critical bit. So if I move that, I'll come over a second. And you can see the attention is the title I put on there as well. So with the style then, the message box style, there are loads to choose from. So you can just have a play around to see what you want to do. And you can do the same with the other bits and pieces as well. So as I said a moment ago, when we type in nothing at all into the text box, it says you are short. Now I could be 7'8" or 250 centimeters, whatever that is, and it's telling me I am short. So we need to add something to our if statement to kind of try to cover all the different options. Then, if that makes sense, in terms of someone might not type in anything at all. So where we've got else here, I'm actually going to add something called an else if. So basically adding, I shouldn't put a capital F there. Else if text box one dot text is equal to basically empty, because that's what it is then when you don't type anything in there, then we want it to say, so we want a message box again to appear, to say you must type in a height. There we go. So hopefully with that will basically, if I just run it the test there, that should run now. Every time I try to type something in which I shouldn't type in, so let's just drag it down here then. So 199 centimeters should say I am tall. Under 188, so 1 is you are short. And if I leave it blank, so basically by accident I hit the submit button, it should say you must type in a height. So it's not telling me I'm height or tall or high or short. It's actually doing kind of covering it, basically saying, look, you haven't done this properly. So this else if basically is used if you've got more than two potential options. So I've tall or short. Basically that's your two, and that works out really well with just an if, an else, and if. But if you've got three or more different things, then you end up using these else ifs. So you could have quite a few of these else ifs piling up here to say you are very tall, you are very short, that type of thing as well. Now, what I need you to do then, guys, in terms of what we've actually covered there, that should help you with the first one quite easily. Same for this number three, same for number four, maybe not so much for number five, but we might have to have a chat in class about what we need to do in terms of numbers two and five. But if you want to try to work out yourselves, which I'd encourage you to do, these little bits down here might help you out. Good luck.